Okay, hello again. Today I wanted to review 2 more books and that'll finish my Booktube-a-thon wrapping. So this, I'm gonna do a review of Familiar Things, and I wanna do a review of the Nakano Thrift Shop. So Familiar Things by Hwang Sok-Yong is excellent, and the main character is a 13-year-old boy, but he lives a very extreme life. He along with his mom, they live in a shanty town in a landfill, and their work is to sort through the landfill looking for things they can sell to recycling companies. So they're living a very, what it would feel to most readers almost like some science fiction or some dystopia, but we know, like, people, this is their life today. So that's the funny thing about the book, is because the whole time it seems like set in the future, some dystopia after a crisis, but the whole time you're like, no, this is now. Like, it's hard to really wrap your head around that. So the little boy, he works alongside his mom, and he lies to the company saying he's 15, because I guess that's the legal age when you can be considered an adult for this kind of work. And yeah, so he's working alongside his mother, and he has a little stepbrother who is, I think he's 10, and he also works alongside them, but the company bosses say that the 10-year-old can't be on the front line. However, he can go back and forth between the workers' line and like some further back boundary, and the 10-year-old boy works as a kind of sorter. So the 10-year-old boy is practically working on the front line, even though they say, oh, he has to stay back in this area. The 10-year-old is also doing an adult's kind of labor, physical labor, and very, very disgusting labor. And even though the setting is so disgusting, because the main characters are a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old, it's so mind-blowing, because when you read a story about children, it creates, in the reader, it creates good feelings, because children are so naturally wired to play, or naturally wired to I don't know how to explain it. Like, the little boys, just by nature of their personalities, they bring this lightness to the whole story, that it counterpoints with the darkness of the setting in a really crazy and interesting way. I would even describe this as a fun book, even though it's about something so depressing, that people live their lives in a landfill. But literally I had fun reading this. So it's crazy in that way. And I really 500% recommend this. And also it made me think about other things that I want to seek out related to this kind of subject. Because I remember a while back seeing a movie preview for a documentary called Wasteland, and it's like an art house documentary, and I never went to see it at the time when it was in theaters, but it's about people who work in landfills in Brazil. So after reading this, I really want to see the documentary Wasteland, because it's going to bring this book to life. So I'm definitely going to do that. And it also made me think of another book that I'd been on the fence about buying, was called The Story of My Teeth by Valeria Luiselli. And that book, I don't believe, is about I think that book is about like a man who auctions famous people's teeth, but the author was given a grant by a big factory, a big company in Mexico, and they gave her the grant to write the story, but she also, the understanding with the company was that she was going to share her story with the factory workers in Mexico. So I think it was a kind of, I think the Mexican company was trying to bring culture to kind of the lower classes in a way, or they were just trying to bring culture to their workers who may not have access to the arts. And so anyways, because that Valeria Luiselli book is also related to the very lower classes that are explored in this, I thought I want to pick up that book too. And it was also sparking like memories of when I had studied in college. We studied this woman Spivak, Gayatri Spivak, and we studied her article, Can the Subaltern Speak? And honestly, that article itself is very hard to understand, but it kind of raises the question of, can a middle-class author write about people from a class which he doesn't belong to? Like, what happens when a middle-class man writes about a lower-class protagonist? Like, what does he do to that protagonist? And does it even represent that class at all? Or is it more a representation of the author himself? So like, it even makes me want to read that Spivak article again, even though I think if I tried, I think I can't understand it. I think Spivak is too... I remember in college thinking, I'll never understand this. But this book was so good, it's like making me consider trying to read that really difficult theory. So, everyone, read this book. It's amazing. And last thing I'll say, it's very unique. To my knowledge, no one else has done fiction based off of landfill workers. So I think it's groundbreaking in its choice of subject matter. Maybe there's other books I don't know. If you know of any other literature about landfill workers, tell me. But no, I think this has to be groundbreaking. I think so. Yeah. Oh, so good. Okay, and I also want to review the Nakano Thrift Shop. So this one was like after reading like this very like serious, like this, I wouldn't even call this a serious book. The subject matter is serious, but the book itself is not serious in tone. But after reading this serious subject matter, I went to this, and it was a good transition, because this is not serious in subject matter, because it's just focusing on a thrift shop in Tokyo, somewhere in Japan, and so it was kind of like there was just 4 characters who all work in the thrift shop, and it just focuses on their conversations and their relationships to each other. And it felt just kind of like, it felt like more along the lines of like a summer beach read, because it had a little strain of romance, and that's part of a beach read, right? There has to be romance. So it had a little bit of romance, but not too much to be obnoxious. It was actually very, it wasn't the whole story by any means. Like, so there was like 2 younger people who are having a slow bubbling romance, and then the older owner and his sister, like they're older, and it also examines their love lives, but because they're older, like the man, his love life has some dysfunctions in it, and then the older woman's love life, I thought seemed very, how can I say, her love life, it seemed like she was defining it for herself. So of all the characters, her love life seemed the healthiest, because she was willing to kind of like she was able to define what she wanted, even though it made her seem a little fresh or something. Like, you know, women, like, we're not supposed to have sexual desire or whatever, but she would talk about her sexual desire, and I thought that was really cool to have an older woman character. I think she was like in her 40s talking about her sexual desire. So that was very feminist, very cool. But the older brother, he was a big old womanizer. So you have this one subplot that you could say had feminist vibes to it, and then you had this other subplot that seemed very like Mad Men, 1950s, you know, just taking advantage of women where you can, like looking for opportunities to take advantage of women. So that was an interesting juxtaposition. And then the younger couple, they were just kind of very novice, like they couldn't even communicate to each other. So they looked like they looked like true like babies in love. Like they just were so they didn't know how to express what they wanted. They didn't know how to communicate. So their love stories seemed very realistic, actually, because I think when you are young, you do like love is such a mess. but yeah, so it was a cool story because it was about it was kind of like a realistic view of love. It wasn't some kind of salacious view of love. It felt, all the storylines felt very like real, like this, like how can I say, like, you know how people who read like real romance novels, I don't know well how those are, but I think those talk about love in a very caricatured way, but like this talks about love in a very, this is what really happens kind of way. And like I said, it was like, had more of a beach read vibe, so it's good if you need something light. Yes. So yeah, both of these are good. This one's amazing. This one's pretty good. And also, like, during the Booktube-a-thon, I also read a Michael Cunningham book, but I don't want to do a review of it just because, like, it wasn't my personal favorite book. So I think, like, let someone else review it who really, really loves it. Like, for me, I had all kinds of I just didn't like the main character. So it was hard for me to be objective about the merits of the book because I didn't like the main character. So but I'm sure there's people who, I hope there's other people who will review that Michael Cunningham, but I'm not doing it. And also, before I go, I wanted to share with you this magazine. So here in Korea, there's an office called the Literature Translation Institute of Korea, and they do many things, and I think it's sponsored by the government a little bit. I may be wrong, but I think the whole idea of this LTI Korea is to promote Korean literature around the world. And so I went to their website, and they put, I think this is like 4 times a year, I think they put out this magazine. And on the website, you could just request that it be sent to you. And I think they want, like, people in publishing. I think this magazine is written for people in publishing, but I'm just a nobody I'm just a reader, and they sent it to me for free. So if you're interested in Korean literature, just go to this LTI website and request it. Like, I'm surprised they should have, I would have paid for this, but they didn't ask for money. So it's basically like, it's a quite serious affair, but basically they have fiction, they have poetry. So, like, most of this is actual, like, excerpts of, like, people's work, and then they have some, like, interview, musings, and then, like, they have some little, it says, like, when 20-somethings begin storytelling Korean literature since the Asian financial crisis. So it's like a professor, like, picked 3 Korean authors, and she, like, wrote a little short article, and then she put, like, excerpts. So basically, this is a very serious kind of publication, but I think the content looks great. Like, so I read like a magazine like this in a long time, but I'm definitely gonna check this out. Like, I remember I went through a phase when I would get the Granta magazine sometimes, but it was, I don't know why, like, I think I prefer to read like a novel and where I can really get into it. I prefer that as opposed to like reading 10 pages and then being like, oh, that's it. So I'm not a big like magazine person because I like longer format, but this is awesome. I'm still gonna give it a try. So whenever I get a chance, I'll let you know how the content of this was. Korean Literature Now, for free. Okay, I'm gonna stop. I think I've said everything, right? Yes. Okay, so guys, right now I'm reading Like Water for Chocolate, and if it's great, I'll review it when I'm finished. So you can look forward to that. And if it's not great, I won't review it. But I'm about 50% through. I think it's pretty great. So, okay, so that'll be my coming soon, is the Like Water for Chocolate review. So, okay, goodbye.